it's hot, so I'm always putting the hot end out, and I'm always picking up from the cool end. Okay, and now I want to switch to my strong hand, and I do so over the work surface rather than over my lap, because I don't want anybody to get hurt. Now, one thing I didn't touch on in my last video, the first video, is how to hold the mandrel during the melt process. Thing is, it's not the same for everybody. The purpose, or my goal during the melt process, is to work very slow at the beginning of the melt process, because I want to allow that glass to head towards as it melts, it heads towards the heat source, and then it starts to drip, and I catch it with my very slow rotation. Hold your mandrel nice and straight, right? But one thing that happens, depending on how you hold your mandrel, at the end of every rotation, you go turn, and then when you reach around to start the next one, you'll jump. Turn, jump, turn, jump. And the thing is if you do that, and you get all the way down to where you have a molten ball of glass on the mandrel, at the end of every rotation, you'll have this little jump, and that molten glass will jump with it, and you will never have a truly balanced and centered bead. So you have to find a way to be able to rotate smoothly like that without a jump at the end of every rotation. I do that by holding the mandrel still with this finger, which I think is my index finger. I don't know. That one, and then I turn with those two. Okay? If you can do that, it works great. I've found, though, teaching, that most people aren't that comfortable in the beginning doing that, because it's just not comfortable for them. You can see how I'm holding it. It's resting against the back. I'm turning with these two fingers, and I'm holding it, keeping it from jumping with this finger. If you can do it, that would be great. If you can't, a lot of the times when I'm teaching, what I'll do is I'll just tell somebody what the goal is. The goal is to cleanly rotate without any kind of a jump, and then allow them to try and find a way, because often they can, and their way is just right for them, and that's a good thing. If you can't find your own way, another way to do it that works as well. You see, I rotate the same direction all the time. I'm always turning. What you could do instead of doing that is just rock it back and forth in the flame. So you're not actually rotating, you're just, it's a half rotation, half and back, half and back, and that can allow you to and do it, working on the surface of the flame, slow at first, allow for the process. Okay, don't try and rush it. Don't heat the core. Heat the exterior towards the core. Okay, try it that way if you're having trouble controlling it, because really the best way to work with this process, facilitate the process, is to have a very incremental turn at the beginning, super slow. Okay, glass is heading towards the heat source, it's dripping, and I'm catching it with my very tick, 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 tick. It's like the tick of a clock. It's a very incremental, slow turn, and that will facilitate the melt process in a very controlled way. And then as the glass becomes molten, it'll speed up and you roll with it. But in the beginning, if you just go very slow and ink, just turning it just a millimeter, tick, 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 until it becomes ready to flow free, which is what it does. It'll get to the point where it's molten all the way to the core. And notice that I'm always working on the surface of the flame. I want to make sure that I'm heating exterior in, okay? And you'll get to that point in the process where you can feel in your fingertips that it's balanced and centered, and then you come away and you don't change your movements, and you allow for it to go from a liquid to a solid, so that it's a balanced and centered solid rather than a balanced and centered liquid. Okay? And then once it goes from orange to dark, you know that you're good to go. And it's very consistent. You always, once you get your process down, I know at the beginning it's not automatic. If you really look at the details and really think about how the melt process is working, pretty quickly you can get to that point where your base bead, this melt process results in a really nice balanced and centered bead with nice dimpled ends. Of course, everything takes practice, so keep practicing, and then it will become second nature, which is a good thing. One thing not to do is, say I'm warming this bead and it's liquid, right? But I'm not quite sure if it's centered, because I'm not trusting my fingertips to tell me. A lot of people will do this. They'll look at the side to see if it's centered or not. If that's a ball of molten glass and you turn it to look at it, it will shift. Okay? Not quickly, it's not going to race down to your finger, but it's going to change shape, and it's going to pull away. So the act of looking at the side of it is going to create the problem, right? Feel it in your fingertips. Believe how it feels, because it's really the best indicator. It flows beautifully when it's balanced and molten. If it goes chunk, 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 and it's like top heavy or bottom heavy, then you have to continue working on it. Maybe add more glass, because one thing that happens that will drive you nuts if you don't really recognize what's going on. Let's say the width of this bead is wider, right? And there's not enough glass on top, height-wise, to be able to round out and center itself balanced in a balanced fashion. So if there's not enough glass, you can work that thing until the cows come home, which I don't know when that is, but it's not anytime soon, and it'll never become centered and balanced. So in that case, add some more glass. Put some more glass on it so that there is enough glass for the process to give you this nice balanced and centered foundational type bead. Okay? Come away. Let it cool. Hey, cool, man. And then you can admire it and go, ooh, ah. And then, because I'm not decorating this one, I'm going to let it cool a little bit, and then pop that into my insulating material. I'm going to leave that there for about an hour or so. We're good to go.